right now, the Bucks have been kind of blown out in a couple games that were close, but they haven't looked good. That's for sure at 2-2. And the defense has really, really struggled. Now, new coach, new player. We knew this might be part of the equation, but as you see it, how worried should we be? I mean, when Mike Budenholzer came in and refashioned everything, they did click right away. So what is going on so far with the Milwaukee Bucks, especially on defense?
Yeah. I mean, I think Adrian Griffin was left searching for it a little bit after that loss in Toronto. You just look at a team that is maybe not sure where they're supposed to be and when, or, he has mentioned not closing out all the way on 3-pointers. Prior to the game, he had talked about how, opponents were shooting around 80% at the rim, going into the game. That went over that with Toronto, saying how, the ball should stop before it gets to the rim and they shouldn't be that easy. So, as Giannis said, you can sort of chalk it up to all of the newness, but they also can't assume that when it's less new that it's going to be better. Like there needs to be steps along the way. And, as far as how or why, I think it's just a bunch of guys that haven't really coalesced yet on that side of the ball, JR.
The Dame Giannis connection, also something we knew would take some time. Of course, Lillard scores 39 points in his debut, a very successful debut. Since then, I don't know. So what is your, scouting report on how Damian Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo have worked together through the first 4 games?
Yeah, it's interesting. They've been staggered a little bit, with which is expected. That's kind of what you do with those superstars in regular season games. You don't necessarily want them playing all their minutes together, right? You want one of them out on the court all the time if possible, and or as much as you can, right? So they've played about 84 minutes together, which is about 5th most of 2-man lineups for the Bucks. I think their actual pick and roll numbers, which of course is what everybody is so fascinated by and excited by. They haven't really run that a ton. Like I think, among 2-man combinations, they're not in the top 10, 15. But what's interesting about that, JR, is I don't know if necessary we need to see that necessarily, because it's kind of just going to work. They've only played 33 minutes with Khris. And that's another topic here after this. But I think overall they're still finding their way. Like in Toronto last night, JR, Damian said, hey, when things are starting in the past, when things would slip like this for us, I would sort of take charge and I would make something happen. But he's like, I didn't feel I should do that here, because if I do that, or if Giannis does that, or Khris does that, he flat out said the word sustainable. He's like, that's not a sustainable thing to just sort of break what you're trying to do in the long term for this maybe short term either gain or attempt. So Giannis agreed with that, but he also said, hey, maybe when it is going like that, one of us needs to sort of impose their will. So I would say on broad strokes, Jerry, you're seeing the flashes of it, the thing that can make this a nightmare. If you go over to jsonline.com, it's kind of a deep dive talking to opposing scouts and coaches about what this could look like, what it means for each of them to make it work. So we've seen the flashes: 39 points for Dame in a win, 33 points in a win for Giannis. So it's just these, it's finding that consistency that they've yet to reach after 4 games.
How should Bucks feel about Khris Middleton right now with how little we've seen him so far?
It's a great question. I mean, he is asked every day. Adrian Griffin is asked every day. And it's sort of a mystery. I mean, Khris has maintained since the beginning of October training camp, he is pain-free and healthy. And I tend to believe him because last year, when he recovered from the wrist, and then clearly something happened in that Memphis, Houston kind of back-to-back games, and then he was out, right? And when he came back, he said, no, my knee, I'm dealing with a knee thing. And now we didn't know he wasn't going to broadcast that he was going to have surgery at the end of the year, which is what he knew. But he was pretty honest with, like, you know, where he was at physically. And he has just insisted that he's healthy. So there's got to be a reason. And we ask every day. I don't know if it's a conditioning thing. I don't know if it's just hyper conservatism because it was an operation on a knee that they had managed for a decade, JR. I mean, aside from the Toronto game, you know, they were plus 28 when he was on the court in his 33 minutes. You know, I think he had 10 assists. He's been active defensively. He had a handful of steals. I mean, Toronto was a dud for everybody. But I think before he missed his last couple shots, he was 4 of 8 for 11 points. So the playmaking wasn't there, but the shooting and scoring were. So he's looked good in his few minutes. But, you know, it's just been kind of going up against a brick wall in terms of trying to figure out why there are so few.
All right, last one. New Jersey's new court. The in-season tournament is upon us. Jim, how pumped are you for the in-season madness that begins on Friday night?
Look, if they were 4-0, might be able to have a little more fun with this. I mean, I'll refresh everyone. Go to jsonline.com. You can read about why the court's going to look the way it looks. It's going to, I guess, go with these new City Edition jerseys as well. Knicks, I mean, it's a cup game. It matters in this these standings. Look, the coaches, JR, seem to have gotten the memo that this is a great thing and it's competition and why not win a trophy? I think the players we're gonna have to see. And again, if you're the Bucks, again, 4-0 might get some more opinions on this. I think right now their issue is we don't really care that this has some sort of extra weight. It's get things better for the Knicks.